Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Business Morning. It's a new week, and it's time to do business all through this week, beginning from, of course, the first working day in the week. I'm Amy John Mekwa. Business Morning is coming to you from our NGX studio. You're welcome to the program. Let's start from the global space as usual, talking about oil prices. It held steady on Monday as investors are assessing the outlook for ceasefire talks aimed at ending the Russia-Ukraine war, which could lead to an increase in Russian oil into the global markets, obviously a reduction in price. Brent futures we see dropped 8 cents, that's about 0.1% to $72.08 a barrel, while WTI down 5 cents, that's also 0.1% to $68.23 a barrel. Both benchmarks settled high on Friday and recorded a second weekly gain as fresh U.S. sanctions on Iran and the latest output plan for OPEC Plus group raised expectations of tighter supply. A U.S. delegation will seek progress towards a Black Sea ceasefire and a broader cessation of violence in the war in Ukraine when it meets for talks with Russian officials. That's supposed to happen today, and that's after discussions with diplomats from Ukraine yesterday, Sunday. Expectations of progress in peace negotiations between Russia and Ukraine and the potential easing of U.S. sanctions on Russian oil pressured prices lower, but investors are holding back on large positions as they evaluate future OPEC Plus production trends beyond April. OPEC Plus, we know, is an organization of petroleum exporting countries and their allies, which include Russia. They had issued a new schedule for 7 member nations to make further oil cuts for global supply. Well, we're still in the oil space now, but back here in Africa, remember we talked about how Niger had to reach out to Nigeria for petrol. Well, the pump price there, that's in Niger Republic, has started reducing following that approval of about 30 trucks, I believe is what the federal government gave to them. Multiple residents in border communities and insider security sources are saying that the development, that hundreds of petrol tankers have started making their way from Nigeria to Niger, and the report stated that a delegation of senior officials of the military junta traveled down to Abuja to meet federal government. At the end of the deliberations, 300 trucks were reportedly approved, and so now the pressure is easing over there in Niger. Back here in Nigeria, the federal government says it will learn power generation and transmission from Egypt, which it described as a role model in the sector. The government has also reaffirmed its commitment to rural development through improved electricity access. The Ministry of Power, the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, disclosed this during a recent meeting in Abuja with the Egyptian ambassador to Nigeria, Mohammed Fawd. Adelabu commends Egypt's achievements in the energy sector, describing the country as a role model in energy infrastructure development. He expresses Nigeria's interest in learning from Egypt's experience in energy generation, transmission, and distribution, adding that the success in Egypt led to engagement with Siemens with a view towards stabilizing Nigeria's power sector. And yes, there, Lagos was the focus at the end of Sunrise Daily, and it is again because the state government says it will redesign the Oshodi Transport Interchange OTI to prepare for the integration of the rail mass transit systems. According to the Commissioner for Transportation, Mr. Oluwaseun Oshiemi, Lagos State government would address the ongoing development and challenges affecting the Oshodi Transport Interchange. He said that this was in preparedness for the integration of the rail mass transit system. Red Line rail projects connecting the Blue Line also will receive a facelift. All right, now let's do a bit of review. We know that we're at the end of the first quarter of 2025. Let's look at some sectors and see how they fared in this first quarter. The NGX is not looking so good, I can tell you that. But let's see if the fintechs have done better. We have the Chief Executive Officer and founder of MIM Finance Company Limited. That MIM is money in minutes. That's Mr. George Badejo Adegbenga. Mr. Adegbenga, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, nice to be here.
Yeah, good to have you. So you are in the fintech space.
That's correct.
Well, some people will say we have seen a bit of stability in the first quarter of this year. Has it been that way for fintechs in this first quarter as we come to an end?
Surprisingly so. I think we've seen a promising performance, pretty much carrying on the trend that we saw last year. So I think this particular sector has shown resilience, which perhaps on the face of it, you think things are really, really difficult, but not at all. And I think for the fintech space, it shows that there are a lot of problems that fintechs are actually coming in and solving. So we've seen significant growth in that regard.
Would you say growth funding financially, or is it in adoption and acceptability by the
areas,
people? Wow.
In all areas. So we've seen 70% if you look at last year in terms of growth. We're seeing the same trend already carrying on. And also, if the World Bank blog actually reported that Nigeria continues to be a dominant player in the fintech space across Africa. So we kind of take 1/3 of Africans' fintech. And it really shows that there is a lot of perhaps problems, gaps, and that's why the fintechs keeps on kind of growing within the Nigerian economy.
So the FX stability, I mean, we may not say that the value of the Naira is applaudable, but we've seen a bit of stability for months now. Has that trickled down into fintechs operations?
Well, I think what the fintechs are actually doing is playing a part in solving some of those problems, right? And I think I would look at investors' behavior, right? Last year, we saw around about 6 billion money coming into the sector, foreign money coming into the sector. And if you think about the challenges that we face with regards to FX situations, these are the areas where the fintechs players are actually doing business and solving problems. So I think there is a problem, and fintech is actually seizing the opportunity to solve those kind of problems. And I think another emerging aspect to look at is AI, which ultimately is the future. And then you could see all the fintechs players now using AI.
But you still have to deal with competition with the traditional banks.
Oh yeah, well, we're seeing collaboration between them, which is wise and smart to see that the banks are not seeing themselves as, we're unstoppable. We're seeing proper collaboration, Standard Bank and Flutterwave, looking at the payment space. That actually is promising, that the banks are thinking, you know what, this is a force to reckon with, let's play with them.
So I would like to picture how this collaboration works, because you're supposed to be rendering like similar services. So how does it work that brings it collaboration and not competition?
Many ways, So one, we've seen some banks kind of set up their own fintech perhaps, so a different platform in order to be able to, add value. And we're also seeing partnership, right? Flutterwave, for example, and Standard Bank, in the payment space across Africa, right? So, everyone is taking different approach, but not ignoring the fact that these are true challenges to a problem that perhaps the bank cannot solve within their own system.
So we talk about key market segments, and we see the fintechs seem to be heading in some direction. You have the buy now, pay later, seems to be picking up, and loyalty program. Then the gift cards, I know I experienced a bit of that, especially during the festive season. Yes,
we're seeing significant growth in that regard. And I would be more particular about the buy now, pay later, right? Which is an area Money Minutes is also playing in. So we're getting people to have access to smart mobile phones, on finance, right? And I think this is a big space. I can even quote some numbers with regards to what's going on in that regard. Give me 1 second.
So I think you have about 1.62 billion. That's the target, or
by the end of this year. Projection for the end of this year, which is enormous. And we're not even there yet. We've not even scratch the surface in this particular space. And if you think about the runaway stock or runaway inflation, you cannot at the moment save up to buy a new TV, right? And that is what the fintech players are doing, So we would let you, get that TV now, today, and spread the money in the next 6-3 months. That way, you eliminate the risk that by the time you save up, the price of the TV has gone up.
Yeah, but the challenge with things like that before now had been data. You understand, what collateral do you have? What data do you have on potential customers? What about those with, bad intentions and all of that? So how have you been able to handle all of those challenges?
Yes, technology has been used. The government has introduced a national collateral registry where you could register movable objects. So for us, all the phones, TVs that we offer in finance are all registered in the National Collateral Registry. And we're using technology as well, an alternative way of actually identifying where people live, what people do, in order to be able to kind of, figure out those that have got the propensity to pay and those that don't. So it's kind of like one of those, I would say, necessity model of invention, so we're coming up with ways to be able to kind of push on finance without relying on the credit bureau, which is kind of where we've experienced challenges.
Yeah, because we're supposed to have data that makes people easily traceable and reachable, and we are still lacking in as a nation.
We're still lacking, but alternative ways of doing this would help us get more data into the credit bureau, because ultimately that's where we need to be, right? But we need to figure out how can we enable people, right? If people don't have access to finance, they'll never get onto the system, right? So how do you unlock that space so you can have the data, then the growth will come.
Yeah, I'm just afraid. So we don't see fintechs falling out because of bad debts and,
Well, that would always be the case, right? Again, AI is playing a part in players being able to figure out how best to determine propensity to pay, right? And those are the things we're doing at the moment. And we believe that this year is going to be our year of kind of opening the doors with confidence, because we've been very, very risk adverse, because we've made some big mistakes with regards to credit risk. And AI is playing a huge part in allowing us to kind of resume lending within the Nigerian space.
We'll get back to AI, but still doing a little bit of retrospect. In 2024, the sector recorded 30% increase in the first half, but I think I saw a report that at the end of the year, inflow, even to the continent, reduced.
Yeah, I think that trend is similar towards the end of the year anyway, but we're seeing increases, and Money Point is a very, very interesting success story. Money Point is now a unicorn, or not a unicorn from Nigeria, right? So I think the future is bright, but it doesn't feel like that for most people on the street, but looking at all the numbers, looking at how people are doing, looking at the prospect, right? It's really, really promising. And from an investor standpoint, I think the investors that are going to do well are the ones that are willing to take a long-term view on Nigeria, right? Anyone coming in thinking we're going to come in and we're going to make our money in 2 years' time, perhaps Nigeria is not for you. But those that want to take a long-term view, they would smile back to the bank, I think. Yeah,
and I guess the fintechs have, if they really want people to feel them, they have to get down there. That's where the numbers are. And the income or the revenue may not be so high, but you have the numbers down there.
That's correct. We have the numbers.
But higher risk also.
Higher risk, but then with all this technology, we should be able to leverage on those.
And then you've talked about AI all through. AI is, we live with AI and live and sleep with AI now. So obviously it's a very integral part of what you do. But what about the issue of infrastructure in maintaining these AI-powered facilities?
Yeah, I think for us, there's so many gaps within the country in terms of infrastructural development. I think that would hopefully come, right? But right now it is here, it is working, right? And it's solving real problems.
And then the contactless payments.
Yes.
It's been introduced for a while, but it doesn't seem so popular, yeah?
Well, I don't think, I honestly believe that there is some regulations that is making some banks be able to use contact lens. And I think it's probably credit risk related, in my opinion. But I think it's about to open up, So I've read a few blogs about the fact that, banks, the central bank is already thinking about releasing this. And when that happens, it makes ease of using your cards, more prominent.
But what advantage does he have, though?
So if you think of it, we have a challenge with regards to network, electricity. Now with your contact lens, you can just do shopping without any kind of connection. There could be a cap in terms of how much you could spend, right? I think that's the reason why it's not been released so far. So in the UK, for example, there's a limit that you can actually spend in the UK. And in Nigeria, if you have issues of fraud and stuff like that, if someone has got your card, they could actually spend up to that limit. And those are the kind of challenges, but I think that they've probably already cracked it for them to actually be looking at opening it back again.
So, I mean, I think I don't need to ask you this because you sound very optimistic. You think Q2 will be better than Q1?
100%. The signs are there. And if I speak from our business, we're definitely looking to kind of open up more products. Buy now, pay later, definitely one of them for us. And I'm seeing some of our other competitors looking the same way as well. So I honestly do believe that this year will be far more better than the year before. And the year before was actually better than 2023.
So the funding, though, the investment, is it more foreign or more domestic?
More foreign.
More foreign. Is that safe?
Well, that's what we need. Now, for the investors, and that's the reason why I said investors need to look long-term, right? And there's a bit of stability in Naira, even though, we want proper stability, but there's been a stability there. And we're seeing investors coming in and, bringing money in. But I think we need more foreign investors, but we need those that are willing to kind of take a long-term view, right? And it would pay. But if you're wanting the short term, then I would say it's a bit tricky insofar as where the Naira is right now.
Yeah, maybe you go to the stock market or the fixed income.
Exactly, perhaps.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. George Vadija Adigbenga, the Chief Executive Officer and Founder of Money Minutes. Sounds like you're always in a hurry.
Yes, it's Nigeria. We're always busy. Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Now, next we're going to discuss infrastructure, and the Edo State Governor, Mr. Monday Okpebholo, yesterday flagged off the 125-kilometer Benin-Asaba road project, which is designed to connect vibrant economic regions of the country in Benin City and Edo State capital. Talking about infrastructure, let's look at that report and we'll be back.
The Igbaboleimi, a display of traditional acrobatics, entertains dignitaries, including the governor of Edo State, the deputy governor of Delta State, ministers, lawmakers, top government functionaries from Edo and Delta States, APC leaders, leadership team from the funding partner, Africa Plus Partner Nigeria Limited Consortium, and other guests who have converged on a section of the Benin-Asaba Road for the flag-off of the 125-kilometer Benin-Asaba Expressway project, the federal government, private sector investor arrangement.
Under this partnership, the road will be rehabilitated, upgraded to international standard, and maintained efficiently for the next 25 years.
In their goodwill messages, the Minister of Finance and the Senator representing Edo North, former Governor Adam Soshomole, touch on the benefits and sustainability of the projects.
This is one road in Edo State, but there are so many others waiting to be commissioned week after week, month after month, according to this particular model, which brings private and public sector together in a partnership that is the commitment, the policy, the determination, and the strategy of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to deliver world-class infrastructure in record time in a sustainable financial model.
For me, we have to find a lasting solution that after building roads, those who drive big trucks on those roads must pay for using the road. And that money must be reinjected in maintaining those roads.
The Minister of Works addresses this and shares other information.
And so it is a very wonderful commitment of Mr. President to the entire Niger Delta region, especially in Edo State. And you come to Edo State, you now find out the three sections that are going to Warri. And I want to commend you very, very highly. The first section is being done by Levant. And just a few weeks back, we were here to appeal to you that you should intervene. And Governor, you intervene by taking out 23 kilometers of the road that is going to Warri, and for a total contract sum of not less than 40 billion. And that work has commenced.
Governor Monday Okpebholo, who represents President Bola Tinubu, says Edo people are committed to President Tinubu's 2027 agenda, given the attention he's shown Edo State.
the road from Lagos to Calabar. I want to thank him. Superhighway. Who else can do that? Even our old son could not remember this. I want to thank Mr. President. That he's actually the son of this nation. Because he's not doing it in the south alone. He's not doing it in the southeast alone. He's doing it in the north central, northwest, and northeast. I want to thank him for being a father to the nation.
The project is expected to be completed in 30 months. It's subsequently flagged off with a handing over and ribbon cutting exercises. Jessica Olubusere, Channels Television News.
Still business morning, and yes, infrastructure is the focus at this time, and we're doing it with Mr. Bismarck Rani, Chief Executive Officer of Financial Derivatives Company. Mr. Rani, good morning, and good to have you at our NGX studio.
Thank you.
So it does seem like there's a lot of focus on infrastructure, especially road. We just saw that the one that will be connecting Asaba and Edo and all of that. I know you're happy about that, Mr. Rani.
Yes. No, I'm happy about any development in this country that will help people get happier, healthier, and more productive.
Yeah, more economic activities. And reviewing the HDMI, that's the Highway Development Management Initiative. At this time, we see that about 195,000 kilometers of road networks have been dealt with so far.
No, 195,000 roads, that's the network of roads in Nigeria, of which only 31% is tarred. 69% of the roads in Nigeria are not tarred. And when they are tarred, the drains are not there, so you get potholes. The pothole of today is a trench of tomorrow. So what are we saying? The Highway Management and Development Initiative, right, is to take the government out of the picture, bring the private sector in, to put their own money in, right, and achieve maximum productivity. That's why we call it the HDMI is a game changer for maximum productivity and output.
Yeah, before you go on, Mr. Rani, please help me. Which is supposed to come first, the drainage or the road? Because if you do the road without the drainage, then eventually you have a bad road.
No, there are different levels. You see, for the drains, which is the sidewalks or whatever, the paved drains are one thing. But every time water goes into a road, it must go through the silt and go down before, and if it gets stuck, it doesn't go down, then it creates, that's the beginning of the pothole, exactly. Right? But from where it goes down, it now drains out to the drains, and then from the drains to the waterways and all of that. So it's a whole process, right? So what we are saying is that, yes, they come together, but you cannot do one without the other. If you go and build roads without proper drains, you're only creating a problem for yourself. Within a year, maximum 18 months, that road will be finished.
All right. So you were telling us about on that HDMI program, for instance, you have only 31% paved road out of this 195,000.
No, that's Nigeria, not the HDMI.
Yes.
Nigeria as a country has 195,000 kilometers of roads, of which only 31% is paved. And when it's paved, half of them are not even a road can be considered to be paved, like when you saw some of the roads yesterday in different parts of the country. Those are not roads. Those have become trenches, right? So, but they are considered as paved because at one point in time, some government signed off and gave a contract to somebody to build it. The guy took the mobilization, took off. The commissioner or the minister took off with the money and all of that. So to bring that to an end, that's why we have the Highway Development and Management Initiative. And guess what? It started as far back as 2021. So we went through that process in 2021. I think the Minister of Works at that time was Minister Fashola, and the President was... So the Federal Executive Council did this and decided to concession so many roads, right? The first road that is taken off under this program was done yesterday, right? Which is 5 years after.
I wonder why the delay, though?
Well, the point is that every time a road is delayed for 1 year, you increase the cost. The cost overruns increase by about 20%. So what is the Highway Development Management and Development Initiative is not what the government is spending on development of roads, but how the government is getting out of the way so the private sector can put money into it. So what you saw yesterday wasn't government investing, it was government facilitating and getting out of the way so that the private sector can put money into the roads. And you will see the result. It is a phenomenal difference. But what are the gains of this? One, the government probably spends, I don't know how many trillion naira a year doing maintenance of roads. First of all, the maintenance is poor. Secondly, it doesn't even happen. Thirdly, it's a leakage. And every time they're doing maintenance, they block the road, right? And then it creates traffic delays and jams. It's a major disaster. But now, when you now concession the road to somebody and it spends this maybe 100 or 200 billion naira and guards it with drone technology, right? With central reservation and high barriers, only 3 or 4 outlets into the, where they get out of the way. It means that one, you cannot even kidnap, right? You cannot, and the speed at which they're going, quite frankly, is much more efficient than the others. And one way to look at it, while in Nigeria, right, the average speed on a highway that you can achieve averagely all the way is about almost 30 to 40 kilometers an hour. In Ivory Coast, it's about 55 kilometers an hour, and we've gone further to 75 kilometers an hour, and that's Ivory Coast just around the corner. So it means that when a road is well built, well paved, well maintained, with tolls, you enjoy greater efficiency and lower costs.
So what it means now is the private sector will take over, and the factor of maintenance is a conscious element that is added to the agreements with the private sector.
Yeah, absolutely. What happens, the private sector operator is given a concession for 25 years. So he builds the road, he maintains it for 25 years, and he gives a percentage of his toll back to the landlord, which is the federal government of Nigeria, in some cases the states. 1. 2, the federal government and the state governments will have minimum cost in maintenance. So first, your maintenance cost comes down, so you have the money to use for schools, hospitals, and other things. Secondly, you do not have to start maintaining, running after people, policing the roads, right? And thirdly, after 25 years, it reverts to you. So you have a reversionary interest, right? So what does it all mean? 1, maintenance cost of government goes down. 2, the cost of transportation reduces sharply. And this is coinciding with the reduction in the price of petrol, right? And then you are actually beginning to see that, 1, for corporate bodies, right, they would rather pay the 500 naira toll or 2,000 naira for a truck toll and ensure that the goods get from point of production to the market much faster.
But for private individuals, Mr. Rwani, wouldn't this be too expensive, having tolls everywhere?
No. As a matter of fact, the records are there. The evidence is clear that because I can get to my location faster, I would rather pay 500 naira or 1,000 naira, right, to get there and come back and turn around. So if I was driving a Molue or a bus, right, and I can go from Benin to Asaba, right now it takes 3.5 hours to 4 hours, actually, but it's now going to come down to 45 minutes to 1 hour. I would go to Asaba, come back to Benin, and go back again. I would do 4 trips, where I used to do only 2 trips. Therefore, my average cost comes down. I can actually lower my fares. That is what's going to happen. When I combine that with the reduced price of petrol, when I combine that with the fact that the vehicle, which is moving slowly and in one place, and the engine and wear and tear is worse, it means that things are better. So the way to look at it is that, is the government investing money to increase productivity, or in this particular case, the government is getting out of the way so that private capital can come in? And that is where this thing is happening. that we are now, the government is getting out of the way. So you saw it, that the Federal Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy was there to ensure and to push the private sector initiative so that we can get the desired results. The Federal Ministry of Works was there to give us the permission to do things and to get out of the way completely. Because we've seen that the delays so far, this thing started in 2021 to 2023, 2023. 2 years, everything was financial close. Then, in 2023, there was a new government, a new minister. Okay, we want to review and review and review. So now, 2 years into the administration, the president actually had to intervene to ensure that this project took off. If not, 2 years from today, we'll still be here, right? So now we've got that. Now let us now begin to evaluate what are the benefits of this kind of thing.
Before we go there, Mr. Rani,
yes.
So how is it going to be everywhere is tolled, or are there certain criteria that will be used to say this part the government can handle it so people don't have to toll, or is it everywhere?
No, not everywhere. So we've taken, let's take Benin-Asaba, right? From Benin to, once you enter from Benin, you pay your toll. There were only 3 outlets from there. You come down in Agbo, come down, I think, in Guashuku or somewhere, and then you end up in Asaba. Everybody who's going on that road will pay a toll. But you have alternative roads. Yeah, if you don't want to pay a toll and you want to go through the forest or some bush path or something, you can do that. What happens to you there is a different story. But here, once you get onto this tollway, right, you are sure, first and foremost, there are no potholes. Secondly, they have removal trucks, the tow trucks. If a vehicle breaks down within 5-10 minutes, the tow trucks take it to an MRO, which is called Maintenance, Repair and Overhaul Facility on the road, which is part of the whole benefits. So you will not have trucks there and people run into accidents. It will be flood lit so that you can see, there'll be no, and with drones and CCTV, if anybody tries to kidnap you, for example, since the reservation of the barriers are about almost 3 to 4 feet high, you have to be on the road, inside the toll road. You have to kidnap the person, throw the person over a 4-foot barrier, and somebody has to be waiting on the other side to take the person to the bush. So 1, technology, kidnapping is low. 2, productivity increases. 3, the cost of transportation, which reflects in the price of goods, right? You will now see the price of those goods begin to come down. So what do we do? Because when you look at inflation, inflation is defined as persistent increase in prices because of 1, low productivity, and 2, increased money supply. So we can take out the money supply things by using the MPR and the central bank. But what the persistent cause of inflation in the country is a reduction in productivity. Why is productivity reduced? Because when goods are produced, they cannot get to the market, right? Then there's post-harvest losses. So you will now begin to see the difference between rural and urban inflation, which is reflecting because of this cost of transportation. 1, because the roads are bad. 2, because the post-harvest losses. And 3, because the price, the price of petrol was high, and now that is reducing. So we have all these 3 factors leading to a reduction in inflation. And when inflation reduces, guess what? Your exchange rate begins to strengthen. Because there's a strong correlation between inflation, right, and exchange rate weakness. The higher your inflation rate, right, the higher the volatility of your currency and the weakness of your currency. So you have to look at it holistically from a macroeconomic perspective. Now, what is this all about? The first thing is that government expenditure drops sharply. The fact that government expenditure drops sharply does not mean that the government will spend it for the people. So the revenue increases, which is good, but we must also block leakages, and that's not the purpose of this conversation.
I know.
What we're trying to do here is to see the benefit of government getting out of the way.
Even when you talk about the reduction in the cost of transport,
yeah.
I mean, I wanted to say that we've seen a reduction in the price of petrol. We haven't seen it reflecting in the price of transport, at least intra-Lagos, which is where I know, and you know, in the market. So I don't know if it's a Nigerian thing or something.
No. Prices are sticky downwards everywhere in the world, but more sticky in places where there are structural bottlenecks. You see, if you look at the last inflation numbers, core inflation increased, right? And month-on-month inflation increased dramatically, which means that there are structural issues that need to be taken care of. When structural inflation is entrenched in a country, it doesn't take long before we can switch from a medium or moderate inflation level to a higher inflation level. But once your productivity begins to increase significantly because of these bottlenecks that have been removed, or what we call debottlenecking the economy, you would see the effect. And this is more structural than transient. And this is good.
Mr. Wright, another thing is, if you talk to those who are involved in the long transport.
Intercity.
Yes, intercity, especially those who bring food from maybe the north to the south and all of that. The issue of agencies or agents on the road. So when we have these tolled roads, will that be part of it, or they'll still be there doing what they're doing?
No. You cannot collect tolls on a highway that is tolled. You cannot have multiple agencies. In the Lagos, I think Lagos-Badagry Road, there are about 35. There's 35.
That corridor is really
bad. So once you've paid your toll, nobody can stop you until you exit. So it takes away all those, because those are not all these agencies that are stopping you on the way for go and bring your TV license, go and bring your radio license, go and bring your birth certificate. Those are not. That's a shakedown, right? It's an extortion racket. So one of the benefits, thank you that you brought it up. One of the benefits of this tolling system is that once I've paid my toll at the beginning, nobody can touch me until I get out.
But that means there has to be a strong coordination within the ministries of government, the different agencies and arms.
They have no access to the road. You see, the road no longer belongs to the government. The government has, you see, if you, let me say, you rent a house from LSDPC, right? The government has collected its rent. They cannot come in and say, come, we want to come and repair the window. No. Until my lease expires, they have no access. The agencies, if they want to collect their money, they can collect it. If it's Ports Authority, collect it at the port. You cannot come to the Asaba Benin Highway and start to collect money there. It will be a trespass, and you'll be arrested. You are trespassing on private property. In any case, they will have to pay their toll even before they get there if they want to go and collect a toll as well. Okay?
Very interesting. So we see increased productivity, economic activities, and all of that, and also jobs.
No, before I get to jobs, let us look, Benin to Asaba today is about 4 hours. But after the construction is finished within the next 9 to 15 months, it will be 1 hour. Lagos to Abeokuta, which is the critical one, it takes almost 2 to 4 hours now. It's going to be down to 1 hour, 30 minutes. Even though it's a short, it's only 80 kilometers. It's going to be down to almost an hour. Enugu Port Harcourt, very interesting, right? Enugu to Port Harcourt today is about 5 hours. When it's concession and finished, it will be taking 2 hours. If you look at it, Shagamu-Benin Highway today, Shagamu to Benin is at least, on a bad day, it takes you 9 hours. When it's finished, right, it will be about 3 hours. So imagine 9 hours from Benin to Shagamu to Benin. Now it's 3 hours. So I can get to Benin, come back, and go again. And so that vehicle is being utilized all the time. You see, let me give you an example. You see the difference between airline profitability in Europe and airline profitability in Africa, especially Nigeria. After 7 or 8 o'clock at night, all the aircraft are packed. People don't fly within Nigeria at night because they are afraid that when they get to their destination, they'll be robbed and all of that. That aircraft, in other parts of the world, the aircraft is working 24 hours a day. Once they've done the maintenance, it goes off. So the downtime on your asset 4 hours, you are increasing productivity. And that is the key thing. So what we are saying is that Rome wasn't built in a day. You are going to have a situation where productivity will increase. And it is key because if Nigeria wants to achieve a $1 trillion economy in the year 2030, or even before then you have to do some dramatic things, including this kind of thing. And I think that is the most important thing, that let us drum it into the ears of people who are going to say, oh, no, we are not going to pay toll because of, no.
Well, they
no.
have alternative.
Yes. No, but so, not only that.
So you choose the alternative at whatever cost it comes to.
It's easy to say that because people are listening to us and say, ah, yes, they said alternative. What happened when they had the electric concession? So, but the people have to ensure that they rise up, and if the concessionaire, right, does not maintain the road, and in spite of paying the toll, I still have all these problems, then that concession has to be revoked. So we must hold the private sector concessionaire to hold him to his word, hold the government, because basically the government is leasing out a road that belongs to it. The concessionaire is saying, I will collect money and I will provide you service. And the people, at the end of the day, are going to be the beneficiaries of this, or should be the beneficiaries of this. If they are not the beneficiaries, then the people should protest and say no.
Yeah, so I guess that would begin with the process put in place to choose who the concessionaires would be.
Yeah, there was a bidding process.
And not a man-no-man thingy.
No, okay, let's take examples. There was a bidding process. The Federal Ministry of Works awards a contract. Right now, man-no-man, they come, they award a contract to their brother or their sister or whatever, and they do that. But the fact that there's a bidding process should be technically much more efficient than whatever it is, right? Now, but the reality is that you have a road, right, and you have to provide a service, and the people have voted a government into power, right? And if they're not getting the service for which they vote, then there are many options that you have to ensure that we get service. There was a lot of fanfare yesterday, right? But Africa Infrastructure Plus partners is going to be held responsible. If 6 months from today, we have not seen developments on the road and all of that, so that people can now see what's happening, they will not be holding the government. And I tell you, from Bagada to the airport, from Bagada to Tinkan Island, when Dangote did the road for tax swap, yesterday I was going to Benin. It took me 21 minutes from Victoria Island to Ikeja. Yeah, early hours of the morning. It was about 6 in the morning. But in the past, you are not guaranteed that kind of free movement. So, yes, the roads were built. That road was built about 4 or 5 years ago. In fact, 4 or 5 years ago. Today, we have no problem with it because what would have happened is that you would have had EFCC arresting somebody who was in the ministry, somebody, the contractor who built the road and all of that. First of all, there will be no road. Secondly, everybody will be arrested. Thirdly, nothing will come out of it. There will be no conviction. So these private sector initiatives that people can see help to drive the process.
So who are the private sector that can, is it companies, is it the money bags?
No.
Professionals?
This particular Benin-Asaba is it's Africa Infrastructure Plus. It's a fund owned by the pension funds. So every Nigerian has a stake in it. It's not for. I
wonder if Nigerians know that.
They know.
They know that their fund is being used for this investment.
They should know, right? They ought to know, and if they don't, they will know. Because I can
now
tell.
They know.
No, yeah, now they know.
We're talking about it.
Yes, I was like, what? Now you know, right? That's what Flavor said, right? So now you know, right? But the reality is that I'm on the board. And let me disclose this.
So that means we can hold you.
Yeah, you can hold me responsible.
So viewers, if this HDMI doesn't work well, we don't see these roads, especially when we're being told we can hold Mr.
Hold me responsible. I'm not the government of Nigeria. Hold me and the Africa Infrastructure Plus responsible for not doing the road, for not maintaining it, or for extorting you. We will take responsibility. So also give us the credit when you enjoy the benefit. So anybody can cut a ribbon. But the point is that work had to be done. And we're taking personal and group responsibility. But if the pension funds, which all of us contribute to, including myself, are investing money on this infrastructure for the benefit of the people, for the people and by the people, then that's what is democracy. This is democratic capitalism, not just democratic socialism.
So how soon can we expect to see physical changes from the HDMI after the cutting of the ribbons?
Oh, yes. I would say that within the next 4 to 6 weeks, you'll begin to see activity. In fact, a lot of the equipment has been mobilized. If we had been allowed to move to site in 2023 or 2022, these things would have been finished. It is just the bottlenecks and the bureaucracy of the civil service, the government, and all of that that has been. But let's not dwell on that. It's better late than never. And one thing you also look at the corporate performance. Logistics is about almost 15 to 20% of the cost. You know, there are finance charges, right? There's cost of production of the goods and logistics cost. We have begun to see, right, that corporate performance in 2025, and if you look at 2024, it was getting better towards the end. 2025 is looking better. So companies like Nestle and others who are now Cadbury, Boa Foods, showing great performance. Dangote, right? Because they are reducing costs. And this is the most important part of it, that one, the Naira stabilizing, right? We touch wood, we think that stays. The petrol price begins to begin to come down, assuming, and we pray that the federal government and Dangote will settle the petrol for, the
crude for
Naira thing. So then we now begin to see these productivity gains in terms of concessionary roads. All of this is in the next few weeks and months, and the jobs being created. Because we moved to site, and we've already started employ people. So it creates jobs in the local, and the people will see the benefit. So you have jobs, you have increased productivity, and you have lower inflation. And finally, you have a stronger Naira. That is the benefit of this, right?
These are the things we look forward to, Mr. Rwani.
Well, again.
Hold you responsible.
Hold me responsible.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming on the program, Chief Executive of Self Financial Derivatives Company.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Now, I know Ladi has been itching to come on board. He takes us outside Nigeria to the global space and tell us what's happening in the global space. I know the U.S. is part of it, and obviously the United Kingdom. Ladi, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Ini. And yes, you're right. I was itching to tell you all what's to expect this week, starting with the PMIs. Now, what are we expecting? We see Monday kicks off with S&P Global Flash PMIs, Purchasing Managers Indexes for March, and that's coming for several countries. These reports offer investors insight into how businesses are faring under the current economic landscape, and consequently moves the market's dial. We expect data from the UK, France, Germany, and the Eurozone to get a gauge of business activity in the region's manufacturing and services sectors. But today we see data shows that the Japanese business that shrank for the first time in months in March, according to preliminary Purchasing Managers Index data released earlier today, as sticky local inflation and soft overseas manufacturing demand that weighed on the market. The Ujibun Bank Manufacturing PMI fell to 48.3 points from 49.0 points in February, shrinking for a 9th consecutive month. The reading was also weaker than expectations of about 49.2 points. Also, this week, investors will look out for Australia's inflation reports. On Wednesday, will be busy for market participants with Australian CPI inflation. It rose by about 2.5% year-on-year in January, matching the 2024 print. Current estimates suggest inflation could remain unchanged again in February, though there's an estimate range between a high of 2.6 and a low of 2.3%. At its February meeting, the Reserve Bank of Australia reduced the cash rate target by 25 basis points to 4.10%. While this marked the first time since late 2020 that the RBA had cut rates, the board echoed caution regarding further policy easing, citing upside inflation risk as a resilient jobs market and uncertainty regarding U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs there. Also, PCE data this week on Friday. We'll be looking out for that crucial Fed target of about 2.0% inflation rate measured by headline PCE data. While some, focus on core PCE, the Fed normally sticks to that PCE. Although CPI and PPI data eased in January, some components feeding into PCE came in stronger, raising the change of higher stubborn PCE numbers. Economists expect the month-on-month and year-on-year headline PCE to remain at 0.3% and 2.5%, respectively. To other stories now, we see markets there reacting to Trump's softer or narrower tariff plan, going forward. We see reaction from gold, and the agenda this time is about the trade tariffs set to take effect on April 2nd. Reports from Bloomberg and Wall Street Journal have said that Trump is now expected to not impose industry-specific tariffs next week and will instead apply reciprocal duties only on the targeted set of countries that account for a bulk of the U.S. foreign trade. Markets are reacting already. Today we see gold prices, they fell in Asian trade today, down about 0.2% to $3,018 per ounce, retreating further from record highs. Then we see Bitcoin also jump from about $84,000 to $87,000 there. And most of Asian stocks moved in a tight range, all reacting to this U.S. President Donald Trump there, saying that it might not be that bad when it comes to tariffs coming up, while Japanese markets retreated on a weak business activity reading there. But let's shift base now to what's playing out in the UK. We have Juliana joining us. Great to have you, Juliana.
Good morning, Laddie.
Good morning, Juliana, and happy birthday again. I know your birthday was on Friday last week. I hope you kept my cake.
I have lots of cake for you, for Inni, for Will, for all of the business team and our viewers, of course.
So guess who's going to be importing cake from the UK, but this time it's free. But let's get to the issues now. We see Governor Bailey's giving a lecture at the University of Leicester. That's coming up today. I believe this is part of the bank's Citizens Forum program. What are you expecting?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. The central bank governor will be delivering this lecture at the University of Leicester, basically spelling out ways that the UK economy can enjoy growth. And growth is the big buzzword of the moment because we haven't actually enjoyed that in several years. It doesn't feel as if we have anyway. And it's a very interesting time, of course, because just a couple of days ago, the Monetary Policy Committee decided to hold interest rates steady at 4.5% in a move which was widely expected. And that's because there's just so much global uncertainty around, mostly regarding global trade policy, which has intensified. The UK isn't necessarily on the worst end of that scale, but of course we are, as an island, going to be impacted by some of these Trump policies. So I think those are going to be some of the remarks that Andrew Bailey will be discussing today. But that speech has definitely been put down the pegging stool, because the huge story is the fact that Heathrow Airport, the gateway into the United Kingdom, was shut down for 18 hours on Friday due to a substation fire, which has caused massive ramifications, not just in the UK, but of course around the world, affecting hundreds of thousands of passengers, estimates to cost hundreds of millions of pounds. And there are loads of questions now for Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer and his Chancellor Rachel Reeves as to how this was able to happen, how energy and the fact that Heathrow was relying on one dominant power station, how this was, allowed to collapse. There is an ongoing investigation about that. So that is a huge story, Laddie, and that is going to have, as I said, large ramifications because, growth is, a big buzzword. This year as well, or this week, should I say, quite interestingly, it is the 5th anniversary of the first COVID lockdown. Remember, Laddie, Prime Minister Boris Johnson staring down the barrel of the camera, telling everybody you must stay at home. It was 5 years ago, which sounds very scary, actually. It shows how time is flying so fast. But of course, Britain has struggled to recover from productivity since then. So it's quite a big week. Heathrow just shows that if we are to invest in growth, we've got to make sure our infrastructure isn't dilapidated, hasn't been suffering through austerity, and we can ensure what we saw on Friday can never happen again. So big week here in the UK.
Yeah, definitely a big week, and I can't believe it's already 5 years since we had all the lockdowns and face masks and all of that. Hope we don't see that again. But what market moving data should we be expecting this week for the UK?
Well, we've hinted at Wednesday, which is a big day for the government. Chancellor Rachel Reeves is going to be delivering her spring statement, and she has been on the airwaves over the weekend giving some interviews, some insight into what is going to spring up in that. And we know that there are going to be 10,000 civil service job cuts. A lot of members of the general public won't be too annoyed or disappointed at that announcement, but that's still 10,000 jobs, and a lot of civil service workers have been complaining over the years that they've already have been dealing with not having enough staff in the office and bureaucracy and already restraints on budget. So I don't know if that's going to go down too well. And there have been hints and suggestions that there are going to be cuts in welfare. How long does Rachel Reeves have? There was so much excitement about this Labour government and the economic plans and a boost to infrastructure and growth, but we're yet to see it. I think lots of her policies and her fiscal restraints and the tightening of budget, I think these are long-term results at a time where people want to see, instant satisfaction. So yes, we shall wait and see, as we like to say. But yes, the spring statement is going to definitely move markets midweek, Laddie.
All right, wait and see, and we'll be right here waiting and seeing. Thank you so much, Julianne, for giving us details of what to expect in the UK.
Thank you.
All right, so that's it from me right here from Channels HQ. I'm going to hand you back over to Ini right there on the floor of the stock market.
Thank you so much, Laddie and Juliana, right there. So just before we go, it's been talking about markets. Last week was a red one for the NGX. The market lost almost 1% at the end of the week. We only had the positive close on Friday. Unfortunately, that was not enough, to recover most of the losses. 104,962.96. That was the all-share index close, and the market cap was around 65.8 trillion naira. Activity red, sectors red. I think the one that bled the most was industrial goods last week. More than 3%, 3.39% down. Banking also down 2.55% at the close of it. So let's hope this week will be better. Should we even hope, or should we just accept fate and say this is how the market is at this time? Anyways, intraday, Business Incorporated, 1 p.m. Laddie and Anita will tell us how the market will be faring as intraday, and then I'll tell you how the market will close later on today. But that's it on Business Morning. Thank you so much for being a part of it. We hope it to be a pleasant and a profitable week all through this week. I'm Ini John Mekwa. I'll see you at night.